Hello, everyone, and welcome to Ethics. Myself, Conor Bromley, and Taff Stroke all ending here with me as well to talk about Sunderland's 1-1 draw away at Liverpool. We're going to go through all that, but before we do, we have the question of the week, and I actually have two questions this week. Number one, we saw a cat of yours come in the previous episode we recorded, and I didn't ask the name of the cat, and I think the audience would like to know what the cat's called.
The cat is called Deathclaw.
Wow. I was not expecting that. What a name.
My question to you is whether you believe that or not. But there we are.
No, I don't believe that for a minute.
It's my daughter's cat and it's called Daisy. But
Daisy,
I call
okay.
it Deathclaw.
Okay, fair enough. The second question is, should Sunderland look to extend the Stadium of Light this summer? Do you think that is something they should proactively do? Because obviously we know there's issues with the council, but do you think that obviously now we're close to keeping our Premier League status? I would say that we are probably there or thereabouts. We're not going to not pick up 15 points from now at the end of the season, so I'm confident on that.
That's
so
optimism.
The club, yeah, not so much. Do you think the club though should extend the Stadium of Light?
Yeah, I think they should, but I mean it's a lot of money, and I don't know what the plans are. It may well be that they would rather the money goes into the squad development, because we need to progress. We need to make sure we have a bit more depth, and there are still problems to solve, both in January and in the summer. So, maybe you want your money to go there rather than into the expansion, and maybe the expansion is something you do a year later. I don't know. But equally, another thought that has occurred to me, and I'm not sure about this, is that if PSR is ending and we're now going to squad cost ratio, I mean, do the rules carry over? Can we just blow a budget because PSR is going to go? And then when do the dates for our squad cost ratio start? So I don't know the answer to that.
So SCR begins at the start of next season. So 26,
and
27
PSR ends. So
yeah,
does that mean that we should blow our budget in January? Just go because it won't matter. No. It won't matter.
Well, it will though, because if we say spent a fortune in January, right? Then our squad cost ratio in the summer, because you can only spend 80%, that means that wages and whatnot, it would affect our ability to spend.
Possibly. But it might mean that this January window is busier for all clubs if they're thinking we can maximize PSR so long as we stay under SCR. We don't have to worry about the rules of PSR to an extent.
It depends what your limit. It's like so for example, if I'm looking at say Aston Villa, right? So they are obviously maxed out on their limits of what they can spend. They probably can't spend in January because they would still breach PSR.
Yeah, and SCR.
Yeah. And obviously they'll be in breach of SCR as well. So I don't know, but anyway, extend the Stadium of Light wouldn't affect that spending anyway, because it wouldn't.
No, it wouldn't
make no difference.
You're right. But if it means that we can get a load of players in January or the very beginning of the summer that didn't contribute to the change to the SCR because they were the old rules of PSR that we don't care about breaking, if it means you could do that, then you could still build the stadium. And my first query about, well, do we need to strengthen first, becomes less relevant.
But also, though, isn't the SCR to do with amortization of the so like we spent 100 and whatever million this past summer, that money will still be in the SCR because the amortization of the money. Is
there not going to be any flexibility? Because if you change the rules, there's bound to be some flexibility. You can't say everyone's got to apply to it on when you made contracts under old rules before that may not fit these rules.
But you've got the new the luxury thing where you can spend over. I think you can spend 30% over, and then you have to bring it back. I don't know. But yeah, anyway, extending the Stadium of Light kind of is related to that. But in terms of my concern with doing it, if I'm being honest, is the demand is obviously there right now. We could probably fill a 60,000 seater stadium right now. My issue is I've been a Sunderland fan for 25 years, and I am aware that when we do get relegated at some point, probably in the next 20 years, then that stadium becomes very big and very empty quite quick, and that would be my concern with doing it. Are we better off having the demand and having this current capacity, or are we better off having a bigger stadium with everyone being able to get tickets?
Well, if you could mothball what would be the second tier, just like we did last time, if that happened. But this is very negative. I know that this is all bred into us because of our experience, but I I'd be tempted to go for the big stadium, but I can see why they might not. The atmosphere is awesome at the minute, and it definitely plays for us. But if you can get more people in, you can sell more season tickets. Although I don't think that's what they use the extension for. You can raise more revenue, but also more availability to go means that you get more of the local population, and there's quite a significant cap on our neighbours up the road on their season tickets, and they struggle to get tickets. Well, I think I heard Arsenal are going to Bournemouth. And they've got like 1,700 tickets, 1,600 tickets. Is this right? Was it Arsenal? I might have the wrong club. But half of them are going to corporate. Half of those 1,600 tickets are being reserved for corporate. And if your club runs like that, and Newcastle's does with some of their tickets and their away tickets, they were playing merry hell in the FA Cup when loads of them went to corporate last time. I think if we expand and we it gives us the opportunity, particularly compared to our neighbours, to attract the local population. And I think you can become a big team if you can capture this huge area from North Yorkshire up to the Scottish borders. Maybe that's a bit too far, but there's a huge base there that you can draw upon in the future. And extending the stadium allows you to feed that. And I know that the club's plan is to try and make better use of the local area. And we've spoken before about how important is it to not become a tourist club of the first 5 rows like Chelsea, where it's soulless, because the crowd is so really important at driving those results on. A bigger stadium would help that. It would help long term with that supporter base. And we pulled huge crowds in the doldrums because of our wide base across the area. But I mean, that has been brittled away in the last decade, hasn't it? What an opportunity to get it back.
Yeah. Well, let us know what you think in the comments below. Should Sunderland extend the stadium? Like, would you like to see it happen this summer? Right. Let's talk about Liverpool, and let's talk about Sunderland, and let's talk about their 1-1 draw. Let's talk about the setup to begin with, because it was expected we were lining up with kind of a back 5, and then when the game started, it was quite obvious it was a 4-4-2 to begin with, but I think, were we fluid in that? I don't know if we played 4-4-2 the whole game. I mean, for me, I'm just kind of watching the game when I watch it, and I don't... At the start, I was looking for the formation because that's what you do when you see the team lineup, but then after, say, 15-20 minutes, I am no longer concerned with the shape, and I'm just watching the game and hoping that we win. But what actually happened tactically in this game for Sunderland?
I think some of what you say is really right. So we start with a 5 at the back, and I think people think about formations very differently. Most people think about a formation as a formation for the whole game, although we've gradually become aware with Regis that we are different in possession and out of possession, but we are also different in thirds of the pitch. And Arne Slot said this afterwards. He said they're very solid, they're very low and compact in the bottom third when they're out of possession, and they press very high and aggressively in the attacking third. And we are like that. And the problem that we had in recent games, if you think about the Garnacho goal at Chelsea, when we played 5 at the back and Hume folded into midfield, the Garnacho goal came on the transition when we lost the ball just in outside the opposition 16-yard box, and they played it very fast across the middle of the middle third to Garnacho, and he gets a one-on-one with Mukiele. And there was no time for Hume to fold back, or in his running backwards from what is a central midfield position, there is this gaping hole all the way through to Garnacho, who's then allowed to attack. And that's how they score. And then we saw that. I've got the Fulham graphic that we had a couple of matches ago, and we saw that against Fulham. And one of the reasons we were so poor there is because Fulham played exactly into that space. And you can see all of the Fulham greatest pass networks, not all of it, but their greatest pass networks are playing into this space where the top 3 dots of Sunderland, Hume, Mukiele, and I can't remember who it was it Talbi on the right for Fulham to begin with, that those people there are separated from the rest of our team. And there's a great corridor here of vacancy when we lose possession or we transition. If we lose possession really quickly high up the field, there's a gap there that you can play into. And also when we're transitioning back into defence and 5 at the back, Mukiele and Hume have to fall into that. And they just vacate that midfield third. And Marco Silva was brilliant. He played directly with most emphasis into that space when we lost the ball, and they got so much attacking strength out of that. And so that was the problem. And when we reviewed the Fulham game, we were criticising that, and I was saying that's why I don't like that. It would be better if we had a midfielder in midfield who could defend, and maybe we were talking about Lefay, and we were hoping we didn't play that against Bournemouth, who were a stronger team, and we didn't. We used our home advantage there. But you go away to Liverpool and you have to play a 5 at the back. Absolutely, Arne Slot and everybody in the division now knows how you can defeat Sunderland, or where you will get lots of play through that gap in a folding back 5, with Hume and Mukiele have to vacate their attacking pressure into their defensive 5. And so yesterday we saw a tweak to that. When Hume was playing in the middle of the park, he still stayed up. There wasn't this vacating. And, there were moments when you sort of in astonishment looking at Trey Hume, who's playing the front defender alongside Brobbey in a 4-4-2. That's why it looks like that. And in the midfield, and I've got some images here, but you could pick any amount of them. It was so prevalent. So if you look here, that Hume position 1 there, this is Hume. Liverpool have the ball. Lefay is up next to Brobbey, but Hume is here. And what normally happens is we all retreat to the left of the picture down into a 5. And Hume would fold back into Lefay would fold back into this position here, where Hume is, and Hume would run back into his defence. And this would allow a winger like Garnacho to receive the ball very quickly and attack. And that's what happened at Fulham. But here, Hume doesn't do that. He holds his position until it's safe to do so. And it isn't until you get into the very final third that Hume makes that transition back into a back 5. So I can show you, if you moved on just a couple of seconds from this position, you get to this second image here that I've put up of Hume's second position. You can see that Brobbey and Lefay have retreated now. We're inside our own half, but Hume has held that position from where he was in the first one. He hasn't run back. He's held that position. And now that we're set, now that we have people behind the ball, now he will gradually make his way into our back line of back 4, and he'll make his way into a back 5. As that ball progresses from the halfway line down into our defensive third, he'll make his way back there. But what it did, that tweak to the system, the 5 at the back, just holding Hume up there on the wing and up front in your first defensive positions, meant that those gaps that Silva exploited at Fulham and the Garnacho scored from Fulham aren't there anymore. And I think that was really quite a really good tweak that he made to having that 5 at the back. And we were much more solid because of it. And I think, we were all staggered, really, at how comfortable we looked in dealing with Liverpool. So there's my 2 penneth. I've got a bit more here. If you bring up the Hume heat diagram, you can see the evidence of this. This is Hume against Fulham. And you can see, if you imagine where that gap is, he's sometimes up top, and then he vacates the middle, and he's sometimes down below. These are his defensive interactions, his heat map and his position. And there's that gaping hole just inside our half. But if you look at the other one from Liverpool yesterday, you will see a much more evenly spread and balanced heat map. And he's definitely not vacating that place there. So I think that tweak to the system, it requires other people to do jobs. It requires everybody to be much tighter and be aware of each other's movements. If there are rotations, and someone else has to take Hume's place there, but it's just much more solid in terms of where they are on the pitch. And I thought that paid real dividends in plugging what had become an obvious hole for teams to target. No doubt Slot would have targeted that, but then it wasn't available to them yesterday. So a really solid performance. And if you play a back 5 like that, I think we're all much happier. Certainly I am. There you go.
There we go.
But that's why it will have seemed like a 4-4-2, and why Hume was so advanced at stages.
Yeah, I mean, at the start of the game, to me, it looked, because Lefay was going up top. That is what it looked like. And I mean, I initially texted all my friends who were watching the game, being like, "Oh, we've set up. It looks like in a 4-4-2 here. It looks like we're being much more sort of aggressive and forward thinking." In terms of the team setup itself, the players that played, obviously Hume's come back in. Brobbey gets the nod up front. Talbi, I think, most people possibly surprised that he got the nod on the left wing as well. I don't know if people were
Yeah.
expecting him to start or not. Traore comes out as well. But were you surprised with the team that we put out? Or you were shocked when we got the team used to? Because I think I looked at it and thought, yeah, okay. Like I think that's probably a good way of,
I thought it was.
setting up for
I
this.
thought it was all right. Yeah, I thought it was all right. I thought that it was going to be a solid five, and Lefay was going to be on the right. And like you say, when we played, it wasn't. He was, he was very much in the middle and very much up front, particularly when we, trying to make a link with Broby, and in defence, you saw those images there that he presses as a front two there as well, and that's because Hume is instructed to hold his position in the midfield when we lose possession, and so it gives Lefay time to get back into that position. So if you were to go back into the bottom third, we would have a 5-4-1, and Lefay would be back into position. But in the middle third and pressing them, very much a 4-4-2, and Hume is holding that place. So I think that was a surprise, because I looked at the formation and thought, solid back five. Oh dear, there's going to be that hole again. And Lefay is playing on the right. But because of the positioning of Hume and the instruction for Lefay, it enabled Lefay to be much more linked up and much more in the middle. And I thought it worked really well. And I didn't realise that in the selection. So I thought the selection was all right. But it the tweaks that Labrie had made to it were much more effective than I was imagining. So it turned out great, didn't it?
It did. Let's quickly talk about whether or not Liverpool were bad or Sunderland were good, because I'm just going to put on here, this is Arne Slot's post-match press conference, and he'd said that they've hardly conceded. The first big chance of them, I don't count the shot that hit the bar, because that was not a chance. But the first serious chances from a set piece, so that's the Alderete header, and then their goal is, in my opinion, not even a chance. If that's a chance, we've had probably 20 chances, but unfortunately it's a deflection. Blah blah blah. And I thought this was quite interesting, because Slot recognises that Sunderland's goal is fortunate, which we would all agree. Yes, of course, it deflects. Yeah. It's fortunate. But there is also no recognition from Arne Slot that Liverpool's goal was more fortunate. I mean, Liverpool's goal was literally an own goal because it wasn't on target.
Yeah,
and I thought
it's going well wide. It's going well wide.
Yeah, and I thought it was interesting that Liverpool had, for me, one other good chance in the game. That was Wirtz the first half, where he got through it and Roefs saved it, and then it went out for a goal kick. That is the only time that I remember in the game thinking, oh, Liverpool might score here. That was the only time in the game. Whereas you look at Sunderland, the Alderete header, the Hume shot, I would probably agree with Slot. Like, again, the goalkeeper's probably had a bit of a nightmare. Allison, like, he should be saving that. It was Adam, and then, yes, it does hit the bar. And then we get the Isidor chance at the end. So, for me, the actual best chance of the game, the only nailed-on chance, was the Isidor one at the end. So, I know that Slot's playing to a Liverpool audience, and he's trying to find positives, and he's making it, he's got to do that because that's his job. But I don't agree with his assessment here, because I think that Liverpool created nothing. They took shots from range. That was all their main game plan was to take shots from range, and there was nothing else really to it. Whereas we actually did manage to create a couple of chances. I'm not saying we were peppering their goal, we weren't, but we did, I think, create the best chances in the game.
Yes, we did. And if I may expose your RTG name as Alderete fan on Ready to Go, you forgot that he hits the upright with a header, your favourite player. He smashes the upright with a header. So we definitely had chances. And I'm going to give Hume a bit more credit and think that's a ripper of a shot under the bar. And if it isn't for Allison getting a hand to it, that's an amazing goal from distance, worthy of Matt Cash. But you're right, they only had shots from distance. This might be a good time to put up the XG graph I have. You can see that right until Mukiele's goal later on, it's pretty even for XG, and there isn't much of it from both sides. We are pretty pegged level all the way through this. You can see on about 65 minutes, the slightly larger than the rest white dot. That is Sunderland's goal. That's Talbi's goal. After that, Regis sort of thinks about 70 minutes, can we try and hold on to the game? And Liverpool are pushing, and that's what is the surge in XG for the red line for Liverpool. They are really trying to go for it, and we are trying to defend it. So they get quite a lot of chances there. We get a big bump at the end, which is Isidor. But up until Talbi's goal, and for a little bit afterwards, until Slot really goes for it, and we make defensive substitutions to hang on to that 1-0. And I think that's the right thing to do, because you hang on to the 1-0, you've got, we've got 20 minutes, 15 minutes to go. And if you concede, you've still got a draw at Anfield, which is great. So you'd have to concede twice, and we don't concede twice. Well, once. We last week we did, but it would be very unusual to concede twice, particularly when we're not being super aggressive at that point, and when we're bringing on defenders. So I think that was the right thing for him to do. Maybe we'll defend the 3 points, but we will at least get one here. And so until that point, when we choose to defend it, it's pretty even stuff. And I don't think it's right to say that they were by far the better side. We hit the upright, we hit the bar. That's twice, and I think they hit the bar once. Yes, Talbi's goal is deflected, but it's on target, and Wirtz's goal is going well wide before it's deflected, unfortunately, by Mukiele. So and as you say, it's an amazing experience. We were in League One some years ago, and here we are, only very slightly disappointed that we didn't come away with all 3 points at Anfield. It's insane that we can think like that, but incredible at the same time. And it's not undeserved. You go all the way to that Mukiele on goal, by which time we're defending it with defenders on the pitch and substitutions, and they have to go for it. You go all the way to that point, and we're a pretty even match for them. They were poor, but we controlled a lot. And that stuff you put up from Slot, if you go back to what he said, I don't know if people read it, but I think that was taken from the Sky Sports post-match interview. And in that post-match interview, he says exactly the same thing. And then the interviewer asks a supplementary question and says, but, Wirtz's goal is very fortunate. It's gone down as an own goal. So he's still, how important is it that he thinks he's scored? And Slot says, I'm sorry, I didn't know that. Well, in that case, we were lucky too. So he does concede it at the end. But I think at the point of that interview, he doesn't know that Wirtz's goal is a huge deflection. And if you don't know that, I can understand his reaction. But he gave us a lot of credit, which he has to do, because if you have to say, as Arne Slot under pressure, that they're a very good side. We did quite well. They're much better than you all think. Otherwise, he's in trouble. If he says we scraped a draw with a rubbish team, everyone says, yes, you're right, and you're rubbish. So he has to say that. But we were good. We were. And that's now 7 of the top 10 we've played, and we've lost 1. No, Man United are in the top 10 now.
No, if they're not falling out because... Oh, no, they were. I'm just thinking because they're playing tonight. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe. Anyway.
Yeah.
Irrespective of the point. One thing that I think is worth mentioning is, do you think we could have went maybe a bit more aggressive in trying to create more in the game? Because I felt like we had quite a lot of control. We were controlling the game without the ball. It was similar to like when we played Coventry in the playoffs, and we were allowing Liverpool to have balls in areas that we were like, just have them. And if Szoboszlai wants to shoot from 40 yards, he can shoot. If you want to put the ball in and our big centre backs, we'll just head it out. But I sort of think, did we actually create enough for what dominance I felt like we had? Like, I thought Liverpool weren't pressing us very well. I felt like Liverpool were, in a way, a little bit there for the taking. And I just wonder if we weren't necessarily aggressive enough in trying to capitalise on what I thought was a pretty poor Liverpool team. Like, we didn't go for the throat in the same way. And look, I'm not begrudging the match plan, because we went 1-0 up at Anfield. We were close to getting the result. If it wasn't for Wirtz doing a very good bit of dribbling and deflecting one in, the goal itself in terms of his work beforehand was very good, and there's nothing you can do necessarily to stop an elite level dribbler. So we could have easily won the game, and we could have easily got a goal at the end to make it 2-1. So I'm not necessarily saying the match plan was wrong, and I'm very happy with the point, but there is a little bit of me that wonders, could we have been a little bit more attacking to try and put this Liverpool team that is fragile under a bit more pressure? Like, Nottingham Forest, when they went to Anfield, they actually gave away a ton of chances. They gave away far more than what we did. But I think they were a little bit more, I don't know what the word would be, but maybe a bit more forthcoming in their attacks, maybe a bit more aggressive and pushing forward.
Maybe, but Alderete's header onto the upright is only, it's only a ball width from being a great goal. And actually, that's a really well taken corner to catch Liverpool out at the front post, because nobody expected that. So that if that goes in, we're talking very differently. Isidor at the end, I mean, he does it right. He rounds the keeper, and he thinks the goal is empty, and he doesn't realise that Chiesa has made it there. If he does, I think he hits it with more force and tries to go, roof of the net stuff. But he thinks it's just a roll in. And how many times have you seen a defender running back who does make contact with the defender ball, but can't stop the momentum, and the defender falls over the goal line, and so does the ball. So I just think Isidor doesn't realise he's there. Probably next time he says, I don't know if I can't see him, I'm just going to hit it hard so that I get it. Again, if that goes in, the defender, Chiesa meets it, but they all still roll in these, obviously, then we're talking differently. So we did have quality chances, but I do know what you mean. We seemed content with our control in the first 60 minutes. We seemed, unbothered about moving the ball very fast when we had it. We're very controlled. But I think Liverpool are hugely dangerous on the break. And I think after the sort of 65-minute mark, when we started to lose the odd ball, they did occasionally look terrifying on the break when Mo Salah was on in that second half. So I think it was just Regis being cautious. But if you think about some of the numbers, over the entire 90 minutes, despite us going, what did we play in the last 10 minutes? We played 9-0-1 formation, something like that. We had 7 defenders. I think that's what, so even if you concede a lot of the ball and a lot of the shots, at that point against Liverpool, over the course of the entire 90 minutes, we had 6 shots on target. Liverpool only had 4. So we stopped them from making that. We had more shots on goal than they did. If you think about the amount of times teams are tackles and dispossessions, we dispossessed them 6 times. They dispossessed us 7. There's nothing in it. If you think about the tackles and the interceptions and things like that, we made more interceptions than they did, 9-6. How many times were we dribbled by the opposition? We were dribbled. We dribbled them 5 times. They dribbled us 3. Successful tackles, we had 15. They had 12. So in lots of areas of the game, we're actually dominating them, and that's what produces the control. And we actually had more shots on target than they did. And any 2 of those solid chances that we have from Alderete and Isidor go in, and I think we're talking differently. So yes, very controlled, very cautious, but I think we need a bit more credit, Mr. Bromley.
Oh yeah, I agree. I was kind of just throwing.
You're just asking the question, I know.
Yeah, just asking the question. I am personally very thrilled that we like to set up in that way. Wow. That is what I want from a Sunderland team to play away from home. But I do think people may have watched it and thought, could we have been a bit more aggressive? I also want to come back to this XG thing, right? Because this is one of the issues I have with XG, is that Liverpool. Yeah, but not just that though. But like the Liverpool obviously take a lot more shots that are blocked and stuff. But if I look at Isidor's chance, which is right at the end, there is a chance before this from Liverpool, which looks like it has the same amount of XG. You see it's like on 85-ish minutes. I don't remember that chance. I don't know what that is. And like, this is why I get, sometimes with XG, I look at it and I'm like, well, that Isidor chance is clearly the best chance of the game. But yet, there is a chance here that is rated as being exactly the same that I do not remember.
I know. Yep, I don't know. But I think sometimes it's strange. So the Mukiele chance is, I mean, I find, how do you rate the XG of a deflection from a wide shot? It's just, So, I mean, there are problems with it. But I think as a general sort of guide, you could say we match them for most of the game. The only time we don't is when we concede them lots of the ball, because we have 12 defenders on the pitch. So we're fine with that.
Well, speaking of, Luke O'Nien makes his Premier League debut. He comes on, plays on the left wing, I think. Is that where he came on? Or was he second left back, maybe?
Second left back, yeah. Second left back.
So, yeah, that was good, though, to see him on there. And, Reinildo was unbelievable. I mean, he was my man of the match. I thought Reinildo was incredible in this game. But
I actually gave it to Alderete. But Reinildo could have been. He makes one flying tackle that stops like a clear, easy, cutback. He makes and he's flying in 2 feet. If he misses that tackle, it's another red card. But he makes it. Such pace in defence as well. He was brilliant. If I didn't give it to Alderete, it has to go to Reinildo for sure.
I thought as well there was towards the end of the game there was a corner for Liverpool and it was like bumbled around the box and it was going out for another corner and Reinildo did this incredibly acrobatic clearance to make sure it didn't go out. And I was like, that is the sort of stuff that sort of gets into the other players and they go, right, yeah, Jake, we are.
I think so, yeah. I think so. There were numerous moments like that. So up on the right-hand side in the first half, there were moments where Lefay and Mukiele were closing down a Liverpool player, and no one in the Liverpool team was going to provide an out, but we are the aggressive ones trying to close down and win the ball. So there were lots of moments like that, but particularly the first hour, that just showed we had more desire than they did, I think.
Yeah,
it's great. Luke O'Nine, wonderful for that debut of his. He looked like he was beaming all the time, but there was still a part of me that said, don't grab anyone, please.
Yeah, he's definitely got penalty written all over him.
Yeah.
I also thought
Reinildo's superb though.
Yeah, he was brilliant. But I also thought Liverpool looked worried on our set pieces. And I think this is a common theme we're seeing in every game. But we didn't obviously score for them. We nearly did through Alderete. But I think we are scaring the life out of defences when we go forward on our set pieces. And we don't touch wood, but we don't look like conceding from them either.
No, I think that Liverpool have conceded the second most number of goals from set pieces in the division.
Conceded 9.
So, yeah, so they're right to be afraid because we're pretty effective at them. And you saw when we had free kicks from Xhaka pounding them in from everywhere, our free kicks, that they're double marking Ballard, which is great because it leaves other people free or less bothered. And that's how you ended up at Bournemouth with Broby being marked by Cook. So long may that continue, and Ballard is quite happy to take that work on and engage as many people as possible. So yeah, we are threatening. They did look worried, rightly so. A manager's job is not just to try and look for threats and certainly look for gaps about how they can attack, but also to nullify us. So they have to do that, and it's wonderful that we're a threat like that. But also part of the reason the game was so controlled from us is, when we sit in that deep low block and we cover zone 14 in front of the penalty box, the only options that Liverpool have are to go out the flanks. And very much like Chelsea, we just didn't look very bothered by that at all. It seemed really easy. It was a wonderful experience for the first 50, 60 minutes to just sort of say, to be comfortable at Anfield. I went and wandered off to get another beer watching the game, and I didn't have any particular worry that I might come back to find a horrid scoreline. It was great.
Yeah. Is there anything else we need to touch on in this game? Is there anything we've missed? We're obviously going to do a Man City preview, which we'll record at a later time because clearly you're coming here.
I've got a Football Manager Cup final. You don't dress up. You don't dress up for your cup finals. You're not doing.
You're not a tracksuit manager.
No, for the cup finals, I dress up. So I've got to go and play the. Got to go and play the League Cup final in FM Manager in a minute. So.
Yeah. Do we have anything else to touch on? Is there any other points we need to make?
I don't think so. Magnificent stuff. I loved the tweak to formation, and I don't want to push people away from the preview at Man City, but same again, please.
Yeah. Yeah, we've got quite a lot to talk about because we haven't actually touched on the fact that Siddiqui and Xhaka both didn't pick up yellow cards in this game. So when we get to the Man City preview, we're gonna have to touch on things like that and whether or not we make changes. But I think there's a little bit of a teaser for that. I can see the argument for both things. What I would say is that heading into the AFCON after the Newcastle game, we do have to get minutes into some players. We do have to give, I believe, Dan Neil and Chris Rigg minutes because they will have to play in AFCON, you would think, unless we just play Xhaka by himself.
I'm going to the Man City game, and I don't care if we lose. I don't care what we do. Yeah. And it's nice to be in that position.
Well, I think though that how good we are defensively, I think we are going to be in most games. I don't think that solidity we have changes whether or not Xhaka's on. I know Xhaka organises and he's like a manager on the field, but fundamentally we would still have Ballard, Alderete, Mukiele, Hume, Reinildo, Geertruida, all them players. Yeah, Roefs.
Yeah.
We should still be solid.
I agree, and I think I've said it all season. It's bound to happen at one point, and someone will throw it at me. But I've said all season, Régis Le Bris will not allow us to be hammered. Caution first, and I think that is actually really important for morale and belief in the team and producing a lot of these results. We're still in the game against Liverpool at Anfield, and there's a wonderful chance at the end to win it. Some of those we'll get through the rest of the season. Not yesterday, but some we'll get.
Well, we've been till the end. That's been the mantra. Anyway, stick around. We're not going to do propaganda this week. Propaganda will come back next week, so we'll talk about some of the propaganda from the game. We've already sent each other a few bits of propaganda, so that'll come next week as we preview the Derby game, but we'll get a Man City preview out probably tomorrow for you all to enjoy. Thanks everyone for watching, and we'll see you soon.